Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, February 21st, 2024, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. Of course, I'm your host, most Will Buchanan. How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week, try to make sense out of it all. And yes, if you're looking at your clocks, we are starting a little bit late. I apologize. Life be lifing. But as usual, as we do in How the Frack We Got Here, we try to consider ourselves a news podcast, which means that we do get information from reputable sites, from award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News or The Blaze, or whatever extreme left or extreme right people watch. We simply don't do that. We give you just the facts and nothing but the facts. Allow you to make up your own mind for yourself. We do try to watch our language because sometimes words do fly. Trust me, they will fly on this. They'll definitely fly tonight. At the same time, there may be things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers. So viewers' discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, you know what? We're going to start on some good news. What I mean by that, guys, is that, sometimes Dorito, failed dictator, would-be president, somehow still not in jail, somehow, still going out here untouched. We kept wondering what'll finally happen to this cesspool of a Jabba the Hutt person. Well, who knew that the person that might actually stick it to Trump would be a black woman?
To the ABC News exclusive tonight after Donald Trump was fined nearly $355 million in his civil fraud case. Tonight, New York State's Attorney General Letitia James saying she's prepared to seize Donald Trump's assets, including his buildings, if he doesn't pay the money. ABC's Aaron Katersky, one-on-one tonight with the Attorney General.
4 days after a judge ordered Donald Trump to pay $355 million for a decade of fraud, New York Attorney General Letitia James says she's prepared to do everything she can to make sure the former president pays his fine, including, she told us, seizing the buildings that bear his name.
If he does not have funds to pay off the judgment, then we will seek judgment enforcement mechanisms in court, and we will ask the judge to seize his assets.
Trump was held liable for exaggerating his wealth and inflating the value of his real estate so banks would give him low-interest loans. Trump insisted the banks liked doing business with him.
They said no victim, no one got harmed, the banks got paid back. So no harm, no foul. Why is that not the case in your view?
So financial frauds are not victimless crimes. He engaged in this massive amount of fraud, and it wasn't just a simple mistake, a slight oversight. The variations were wildly exaggerated, and the extent of the fraud was staggering.
Trump said the penalty against him would drive other businesses out of New York.
We'll appeal, we'll be successful, I think, because frankly, if we're not successful, New York State is gone.
But the state's attorney general told us she's not worried.
And last I checked, tourism is up, and Wall Street is doing just fine.
Even with an impending appeal, Trump must either put all $355 million in escrow at the court or post a portion of it as a bond with interest. And David, tonight, the attorney general is telling us she is determined to make Trump pay, even if it means seizing this building or others long in the Trump portfolio. David?
Eric.
I'm not trying to laugh at the downfall, but it feels deserved. It does. Because keep in mind, this is literally the biggest amount that Trump has yet to pay. Because keep in mind, this is a civil fraud case. And I keep pointing this out because he's in other indictments, other cases. Some of those cases are federal, which means that if any one of those federal cases hit, it immediately disqualifies him from being president, from running for president, much less hoping he gets the nomination, which all signs will point to he actually gets it. But in a civil case, they can go after his money. And again, New York AG Letitia James decided And she proved her case beyond a shadow of a doubt to where, yes, he got hit with $354 million. So after all tax penalties and things of that nature, it really racks up to $400 million, over $400 million, which again, Trump either has to pay currently, or the New York Attorney General may go ahead and actually seize 40 Wall Street, otherwise known as Trump Tower. And let's be honest, Trump Tower is his pride and joy. It's his fortress, if you will. But I find it funny for a man who claims to have billions in the bank. You think for a would-be billion person, but we all know Trump's a con man. But for the simple fact of the matter is, you would think for a man that claims to have so many billions that yes, go ahead and pay the fine and be done with it. But no, he's going to appeal because that's all Trump knows how to do. Trump only knows how to litigate, appeal till he can't appeal anymore, till he's exhausted every legal option available. But he's hoping that the money that he gets, that he grifts from his flock, will keep him alive long enough, because for anybody that's ever been through court, you already know it takes money, especially if it's a long court case. Lawyers have to be paid. Court fees are included, things of that nature. And this is the part where a lot of people sit there and say, how in the blue hell for a man whose every business has failed, even his Trump organization has been indicted. The man that was his CIO did a short jail stint. How is this man still able to, for all intents and purposes, still look flush with cash? Well, it's his daughter. It's basically his flock, or I should say his PACs. For example, Save America, which is basically a Donald Trump PAC. They take donations from his flock, even more so because lawyers have gotten smart about Trump and have sat there and said, "Oh no, you're going to pay us up front because we know how you do your contractors and other businesses that do your services, and then you stiff them on the payment." That's not happening with us. So again, Save America gave its largest payment to the law firm of John Lauro, who's actually representing the president in the federal election case. That again was brought forward by a special counsel, which he did request, by the way. So this PAC paid $583,000 to this law firm. So again, that's just the largest payment. Last year alone, this same PAC spent $55 million on legal bills. That's nearly 85% of what they had. And again, this all comes back from his donate. This comes back from people that donate to his flock. So amazingly enough, there are idiots out there that give Trump money to stay flush with cash, to be able to pay lawyers, at the same time stay alive in the courts because he has no money. As I said before, he's a con man. He's broke. At the same time, he is depending on people who see him as some type of urban legend or hero to give money. Even more so, even in the fact this man just got hit with possibly the largest judgment amount in a civil fraud case in New York. Which, by the way, it's always funny. Well, if I leave, then the New York State fails as a whole. Sir, New York State is thriving just fine. You're not exactly the pinnacle that holds it all together. Concerning the fact that, again, Trump Tower is basically cut in pieces by multiple entities, and he barely owns the majority stock of it. Again, guys, I cannot keep stressing this enough that it's going to be interesting because Letitia James has already served a 30-day notice and said either you pay the $400+ million judgment or we go through other means. But we all know what that means. We go after your assets. What assets does Donald Trump have besides Mar-a-Lago and Trump Tower and a few other holdings? Everything. And I don't want to wish downfall on a man, but it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. But Trump's not downtrodden. Oh no, he decided to go to SneakerCon to unveil a sneaker line. I cannot make this up.
We could show this. Trump today announcing he's launching his own line of footwear. I don't know, Paul, you're going to be picking up a pair of these, but the most expensive pair apparently come in at a steep $400. But it goes to show you can have the most expensive shoes money can buy, but you can't outrun the long arm of the law?
No, I think it's interesting. He actually knows a lot about feet, because you remember he dodged service in Vietnam by falsely claiming that he had bone spurs in his feet. So he's got very soft and delicate feet, and so I hope these shoes are wonderfully comfortable for Mr. Trump, because he's a very soft man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That was kind of a dig. It was kind of a dig, and I dig that. But yes, Donald Trump decided to go to SneakerCon to unveil his sneaker line. $399. And here I thought LeVar Ball was an idiot. $399. Now, I know for a lot of people are saying, well, it's no different from how much people are paying for Jordans. Yes, but you're paying for a brand. This guy is basically just trying to sit there and just grift any way he can. You guys forget, this is the same Trump that did Trump Steaks, Trump Airlines, Trump Vodka. Everything with his name on it, he tried to push. Every one of those business ventures failed. And so what does he have left? Trump sneakers. Yes, you can get the Air Conman 45s or 44s if you want to be honest about it. But again, it's amazing to me because you would think there actually was purchases. Even one where one guy paid $9,000 for an autographed sneakers, mind you. He paid $9,000 for autographed sneakers. Now, beyond me, I don't know why. But at the same time, I'm just like, are you doing this just because you can say you had them, or you can do the same because, Donald Trump, I've owned the last pair of sneakers before a president decided to get arrested and put in jail. I don't know. But despite the judgment, despite that his holdings can be taken away from him, despite that he goes to SneakerCon, gets booed, and shows the ugliest pair of sneakers I've seen this side of LeVar Ball's shoes. With all that being said, this man can still possibly win the Republican presidential nomination. But he does have one other person, which again, for every primary they've done, Trump has won. Nikki Haley, for some odd reason, is still in it. Even more so that she sat there and says, ahead of their South Carolina primary, which actually is happening tonight. Well, it did happen tonight. Again, it's 11:09 right now. But Nikki Haley says that she will stay in the race until the last person votes. Even though at this point, and I say at this point, guys, she doesn't really have a shot. I'm going to, and again, I'm just going to break this down very quickly why she doesn't have a shot. Nikki Haley's not marketable. She's not. And I hate to say this because this is about, and I hate to say this, and I don't mean to sound sexist in any way or degrading in any way humanly possible. Nikki Haley is about as attractive to the Republican Party as pretty much Botox is welcomed in third world countries. That's being honest. Because Republicans, conservatives, they look at women and go, nah, I don't know. They look at Nikki Haley and go, yeah, no. I don't think she's the right person because they can't relate. Number one, they can't relate. That type of thinking will never relate to somebody that doesn't look like them. So they look at Nikki Haley and go, a woman running for our nomination for the GOP? I'm not feeling it. At the same time, look at her credentials. She was governor of South Carolina. Didn't do a really good job. Ambassador to the United Nations. Didn't do a good job. But at the same time, she wants to sell the fact that she was the one that basically after the shootings that have happened in that state, got the Confederate battle flag taken down. That's her one claim to fame. Oh, and her husband's serving in the National Guard. That's nice. But she's not relatable. At the same time, she hasn't said anything outside of what's already in the conservative track to make people think that, yes, maybe she is different than Trump. Maybe she does have a plan. Maybe she does have a good head on her shoulders, which, again, we've seen that because Nikki Haley, that's not her real name, can't even answer a simple civics question. What do you think was the reason for the Civil War? Well, I mean, obviously it was slavery. Yes, but, you could have answered the question then and not 48 hours later. Or my other personal favorite, you know what? America's not a racist country. 10 seconds later, I've experienced racism. I'm sorry, did your mind just go, bloop? Did your mind just literally just reset itself? Again, inconsistencies. Inconsistencies. She cannot connect with the voters. She's certainly not trying to connect with other voters that let's just be honest, she's not trying to connect with other voters that aren't white. Yes, she went on the Breakfast Club. Every candidate that's trying to connect with minorities goes to the Breakfast Club. But the Breakfast Club is not the one-all be-all for the gateway to Black and people of color voters. It's not. It really isn't. But again, it's a nationally syndicated radio show. People listen to it on a daily basis. I can see the allure. But again, for candidates like Nikki Haley, she didn't really show herself well. And I mean, you're getting interviewed by Charlamagne the God. I mean, that bar is already low enough as it is. But again, she could not connect with minorities. Her own party members don't see her as effective. At the same time, the cult still wants their leader. The cult of Trump still wants their leader. And when you're an opponent that's trying to do such things, you're going to have a hard time trying to convince others that yes, we can do this if we choose to. We can go this route if we want to. And Nikki Haley, again, seems to think that the South Carolina primary, which I apologize, they're actually voting on Saturday, not today. I'm sorry. Mind wipe myself. So the primary for South Carolina will actually be on Saturday. So it amazes me so that if after this primary, which again, if you get beat, number one, if you get beat in your own state, cancel Christmas. You have no shot. Do I think Nikki Haley will lose the primary in South Carolina? Yes. Because why? Cults come out. The cult comes out for their leader. Nikki Haley doesn't have a solid base to stand on. She is pretty much blaming everybody because, again, when it was her and Ron DeSantis, it was easy to poke holes. I mean, don't get me wrong. Number one, it was easy to poke holes in Ron DeSantis. The Don't Say Gay bill, gutting of African-American AP history, taking on Disney World, basically upping the taxes in his area, deporting illegal immigrants with the law that says if a business is caught with illegal immigrants, those legal immigrants are immediately deported, and that company or individual is fined $100,000. Did you see how many of those immigrants left, and how hard those businesses got hit? So yes, it was easy for Nikki Haley to turn around and sit there and say all these things, but Trump, you can't throw mud at Trump and expect it to hurt. I mean, if anything, you should learn from Hillary Clinton, who right now is looking like Nostradamus. Right now, the former Secretary of State is looking like Nostradamus on Trump, because if you go back to her debate with Trump, everything she said has happened. He's a compromised president. He received money. It's been found out that he's received money from other states while running for president. He has to answer for that. She said he was a compromised president. She said he was a con man. She said he basically wolfed on taxes. And yet everything she said has came out and has been correct. And I keep telling everybody, America made the wrong decision more than a couple of years ago. Because imagine if we had Hillary Clinton at the helm. I think it'll be quite different. But I just don't see Nikki Haley moving forward. I don't. I could sit there and say that. I could sit there and say otherwise, but I don't see her moving forward. I see her congratulating Trump, and then begins the race for second place, which, by the way, America's Uncle Tom, Senator Tim Scott, seems to be winning, because now Trump can sit there and say, here's my new black friend. Come, black friend. Come, sing and dance in their praises to me. Shower me with affection, because that's what I paid you to do to become vice president. And that's what Tim Scott's trying to do. And I hate to say this, after the South Carolina primary, Nikki Haley will be joining that race too. Because at that point, unless, and I say very heavily, unless something happens to Trump to where one of those federal cases ends in a guilty verdict, that is the only way at this point that Trump will not get the nomination, unless that happens. Because again, Civil cases don't matter when you're running for president. It's the federal cases that do, because federal convictions disqualify you from running for president. So, again, we watch the clock, not only for to see if Trump's ever getting indicted, but if Trump come up with this money, because right now he's trying to secure a bond and no bank wants to touch him. Congratulations, Trump. You wanted to be black people so much. Now you get to see what it looks like when we try to get loans from banks. Anyway, moving right along, guys. I mean, I can't really rag on the Republicans all day, but I got to rag on Joe Manchin a little bit, because Senator Joe Manchin, again, a man who says he's Democrat, but really he's a Republican, a man who basically killed the progressive agenda that President Joe Biden was on, a man that killed the ability to raise the minimum wage, a man that basically killed the Build Back America plan, which actually would have focused more on infrastructure, education, things of that nature, a man who killed the Voting Rights Act because he was afraid that he was going to lose his state to Trump because he is in a heavily identified Republican state. And at the same time, this is the same man that wanted to strip the powers of the EPA because he sits on the board of a coal mining corporation. As we all know, coal mining is a dying industry. But, under EPA regulations, coal companies would be paying more, which again, Manchin on the board of directors for a coal mining company who's also a U.S. senator that has basically made sure that the EPA can't touch coal companies. How is that a conflict? How is that not a conflict of interest? That's all I'm saying. But anyway, we did say not earlier this year, a little bit last year, we sat there and said that Joe Manchin would be considering running for president under a third option. He would run as an independent. And we all had a good laugh, because if Joe Manchin can't even get a vote in for something proper, do you really want him at the head of the country? Well, again, with the border bill that failed, Manchin has sat there and said he has chosen not to run for president because he says, quote unquote, I've seen my friends walk away and cower to Trump. His friend being the Republican friends. Now, again, let me explain this the best way I can about Manchin. Manchin is pretty much a coward. He's yellow. He's basically going to sit there and say, well, I'm not going to do this because of this, this, and this. But ultimately, he's not the guy for the job. Quite frankly, I'm surprised he actually got voted to be a senator. At the same time, he doesn't want to endorse Biden. I don't know what it is that he doesn't want to endorse Biden about, but it seems to be some sort of beef. But he's not the only one, because we got another person who actually has a legitimate beef with Biden, but we'll get into that momentarily. But going back to Manchin, just like the Republicans, can we honestly say that Manchin has done anything of a successful note? I know I can't. I know he's voted in the same way Republicans have when it comes to many bills that pass by, even voted to codify abortion and women's rights. This Democrat voted against it. And I always sit there and said, as a man, a woman's body is her choice, her options. The choices and consequences are hers and hers alone. What she does with her body is her business. That's how it's always been. It should be. It should never be about the fact that we have to step in and treat a woman like a broodmare because we believe in some notion that we're so pro-life that we have to defend a voice that can't speak for itself. But yet, once the voice does speak for itself, you don't want to adopt it or raise it. So you want to put it in a home. You want to put it in a home through foster care until they're old enough to actually be in the military. Then you want to put them in the military because we support the troops. But then when they come back from the military, fucked up and everything else, then you're like, well, sucks to be you. And the cycle of life in the GOP returns again. But Manchin had the ability to sit there and say, you know what? I could do right and vote properly. He didn't. So I'm not going to shed any tears that Manchin doesn't want to run for president. I just hope very soon he decides to take the exit, because I'd rather have some new blood in Congress, because, again, Congress is looking like the nursing folks' home with congressional power. And I'm sorry, it's kind of dangerous. That's all I'm saying. But speaking of things that don't make any sense, in my hometown of Nashville, if you had told me, and me and other colleagues have this thing called a bingo card. This was not on my bingo card of 2024. If you had sat there and told me, downtown Nashville, Music City, USA, if you had told me that a group of individuals would dress up as Nazis, not only dress up as Nazis, but have the audacity to walk down a street in downtown Nashville with signs, the whole full nine, and went through there untouched. If you had told me that, I wouldn't have believed you. But then again, we got video.
Roar in Tennessee after a controversial march over the weekend. A small group of neo-Nazis walked through Nashville. We are going to show you video in a few seconds of that march, but we do want to warn you some of the symbols and imagery are disturbing and hateful. Police say about 24 people marched around the Capitol and parts of downtown on Saturday. They eventually left after a brief confrontation. Now, several lawmakers are speaking out. Here with the latest, NBC's Valerie Castro following this one for us. So, Valerie, first off, what do we know about this march and this group?
Zinkley, so this appeared to be a group of about 24 men that marched through downtown Nashville and around the Capitol. As you saw in the video, they were all wearing those red shirts. Most of the group, the majority of the group, had their faces covered. Their identities were concealed. Some of them were carrying flags with the swastika symbol. Several bystanders who witnessed this took cell phone video of the group. Some of them confronted the group and yelling at them, calling them cowards for not showing their faces. Some say that the demonstrators were yelling anti-immigrant chants. Nashville police issued a statement saying that they had monitored the group, and they say that the group left at the end of the demonstration climbing into a U-Haul box truck, and that they left the county at that point. Now, this is a relatively new group. This is associated with the Blood Tribe, a neo-Nazi group, according to the Anti-Defamation League, a relatively new group that formed in about 2020 and 2021. But the ADL says that their activity has been increasing, and several of their last events have targeted LGBTQ festivals and pride events.
And of course, as their activity is increasing, it's happening in a larger landscape of hate increasing in the nation. I wonder, how are people responding to what they saw in Nashville?
So several lawmakers issued statements over the weekend on social media. Today, just a few hours ago, there was a rally held at the state capitol. There were lawmakers there. There were religious leaders from the community there. Some of them blame the state's Republican leadership. They say that anti-immigrant rhetoric may have fueled some of this demonstration. The Democratic State Representative Justin Jones actually witnessed the march on Saturday. He took some of that video. He organized that rally today. Take a listen to what he had to say.
That was meant to intimidate our community, but we stand united, multiracial, multi-generational, multi-faith, people who have not been together for some time, standing on the plaza, the People's Plaza, where they were, saying we're reclaiming the space.
Yeah.
We're cleansing the space.
That's it.
We're getting rid of all that hate and that negativity and saying, this is our plaza.
Yeah.
This is our house.
Yeah.
And we are not covering up our face, but we're proud of who we are.
The Republican Governor Bill Lee also issued a statement over the weekend on social media saying Nazism and anti-Semitism should never be tolerated in any form. As Jewish people around the world continue to face persecution, Tennessee remains unwavering in our support for the nation of Israel and her people. Zinkley, in the scheme of things, this may have seemed like a small-scale demonstration, but such a powerful, hateful message.
So I'm going to be honest here. I am one that will always sit there and say, you have the right to say whatever it is you want. It's freedom of speech. But whatever you say in life whatever you say during your moment of free speech does not absolve you of any actions that may follow. So I ask again, this is the same state that sat there and said, we don't want illegal immigrants, even in the House deciding to do a bill to help with illegal immigration in Texas. Even though Tennessee is a landlocked state, they decided to send people, equipment to Texas to help at the border. This is the same state that sat there and said, we do not tolerate bullshit. Okay, so explain to me how a group of neo-Nazis or, neo-Nazi wannabes, all masked up, all marching, explain to me how they got through unscathed. Because I agree with a friend of mine that said this, and I fully agree with him. The silence is deafening. Because I can see that, well, you know what they could have had. They could have had weapons on them. They could have been they might have been daring folks. They might have been daring folks to do something. You don't know what could have happened. It was probably best to leave them alone. No, it isn't. Because you know what's so funny? And I point this out all the time. You'll never see neo-Nazi signs in Germany. You won't even see a swastika in Germany. Why? Because if someone did try, they got stomped out. They got their ass whooped. Because, yes, you have the right to say what you want in Germany. But if you come out in neo-Nazis and swastika and remind them of a time, a dark period in their history, people liable to whoop your ass. And I say this, and I said this on my Facebook post as well. I said, it is amazing that I believe those Nazis decided to march downtown for safety. Metro is like, oh, we were monitoring the situation to make sure nothing happened. Really? Just out of curiosity, what if the neo-Nazi group decide to go march down Jefferson Street? For all those don't know, for all those that don't know Nashville very heavily, Jefferson Street is basically connected or on the road to several minority businesses, and of course, one very well-known HBCU, Tennessee State. Let's just say, for example, those neo-Nazis decide to march down Jefferson Street. Pretty sure they wouldn't get far, because you know why? You get stomped out. It's almost like those stupid pranks you see on YouTube, where guys pull these pranks off, and yet somehow, some way, they come out of this untouched. That's what happened here. And don't get me wrong, Representative Justin Jones, love him, love Peterson, love Gloria, love the fact that those three Democrats are trying to change things here in Tennessee. I got nothing but love for him. I love for the fact that he was trying to sit there and say, we're not going to let that negativity plague us. That's not us. Again, Mr. Jones, I respect everything you say. But me, I feel like sometimes violence is the answer. And I'm going to be honest, punching or stomping out a Nazi is high on my bucket list. And at the same time, it is amazing that, yes, people did confront them. Yes, people did try to stop them. But my whole thing is stomp them out and it never happens again. Send a message. I'm not saying unalive them, but if a message is sent that we do not tolerate that type of hate in this city, much less the state, it doesn't happen. But then again, we are the state of the KKK. And KKK people have no problem going into a local Walmart with their stuff on and no longer wear the hoods. Why? Because we can also sit there and say that Tennessee has made racist, bigots, Nazis feel a little safer because they believe they can't be touched. I believe that one day that shit needs to change. But again, had it been me, I'm just saying you'll never see those folks go down minority places because minorities aren't silent. We're reactive. And again, don't start none, won't be none. Protest be damned. But anyway, move right along, guys. I wanted to cover this as well because I keep telling you guys the landscape for the House and Senate are changing. But what people are not noticing right now is that not only are Republicans planning to leave after this term, also Democrats. Should we be worried? Yeah.
Exactly how many people on Capitol Hill are headed to the exits?
Yeah, Boris, Melanie hit on the number of Republicans that are leaving, but there are a ton of Democrats who are also leaving the House. In fact, there are more Democrats who are departing the House of Representatives than Republicans. 25 Democrats, 23 Republicans. And that, to me, is the remarkable thing that's going on here. Look, there are plenty of years when more Republicans retire, a lot of Republicans, and years in which a lot of Democrats retire. But the fact that you're getting a bunch on both sides, that is what's so historically unusual here. In fact, I went back over the last 20 years or so and looked back to see, okay, at this point in Congresses, was there at least 23 folks leaving on both sides of the aisle? Boris, this is the first time it has happened this early since at least 2006. So something is clearly going awry for both sides of the aisle, where a bunch of Democrats and a bunch of Republicans are saying, you know what, forget about it. We don't want to be members of the House anymore.
Well, obviously, for each individual member, there might be different circumstances kind of edging them out the door. But I'm wondering, generally, is there an overarching theme as to why they're leaving?
Yeah, I mean, it's because Congress isn't getting anything done, Boris. I mean, look at the number of bills and resolutions that have been passed on right now through the Congress. It's only been 39. That is a record low at this point in Congress since 1973. The prior low a decade ago, it was 83. So we're at less than half that level, right? So a lot of people have often complained outside of Washington, Washington doesn't get anything done. Well, that is certainly being the case this time around. And in fact, it's not just that Washington isn't getting anything done. It's that people hate Washington and hate Congress. I mean, what is Congress's approval rating at this point? It's 19%. So they're not doing anything. People hate Congress. That's why they're getting out of there. A lot of them are.
You can't hate the fact that outside he sounds like Lewis Black a little bit, but he's right. Think about the fact that every time we tell people to vote, myself included, and I'll still tell people you need to vote. But here's what happens, which most of the time, I'm sorry, not most of the time, because sometimes the Democrats may get the House and the Senate and the presidency, or sometimes the GOP may get the House, the Senate, the presidency. Sometimes the GOP may get the presidency, Democrats get the House and the Senate. Sometimes it's reverse. But the one thing that has always happened lately is that, Democrats may get the Senate, Democrats may get the Senate, Republicans get the House. During Trump's, it seemed to be that, yes, even though Republicans had the Senate on lockdown, even though the Democrats may have had a slight majority in the House, the Republicans still got stuff done, still managed to bulldoze stuff through the House, through the Senate, of course, to Trump's desk to sign stuff. That being said, people are tired of the gridlock. I've had people say all the time, man, all it's going to do is that the Democrats will get one house, the Republicans get the other house, and nothing gets done. I can't argue with that, because the simple fact of the matter is that's how the GOP does. Now, again, and I will stress it because I know people are going to sit there and say, you know what, Will, for someone that talks about that talks about the GOP so much, you don't really talk about the Democrats when they try to do stuff. Okay. The thing about it is, though, I talk about the fact of which party is pushing something. Democrats have pushed bills through. What have Republicans done for this entire 118th Congress? That is the one thing I will keep saying. What has the 118th Congress done from the Republican side that they can run on come their next midterm? You will be hard pressed to find it. In the same sense that what the Republican Party has done for the American people, besides raise taxes, get us in wars, pretty much bleed the middle and lower classes to death while still believing in Reaganomics. Again, tell me what they've done. What have they pushed through? Oh, let's not also forget that because of them, they actually got an overwhelming majority in the Supreme Court that actually got Roe versus Wade killed, that got a part of affirmative action killed. And now it may look like they may actually go over other landmark cases like Orville versus Hodges, which is basically same-sex marriages. I'm surprised they didn't go up to the Love case, which are interracial marriages. But again, I digress. What has the Republican Party done that to where they can sit there and say, this is what happens when you vote for us? Because right now, the opposite effect of happening, this is what happens when you vote for us. So again, past this presidential election that's going to happen this year. Again, what happens in the midterms? Do we get another, this house got this house, this party got this house, this party got that house, and we're deadlocked again? Or will we see a majority? I would like to think we'll see a majority because, unfortunately, that's the only way you can get things done in Congress. The whole bipartisan bullshit just simply doesn't work. But since for all those that know I don't always talk about Republicans all the time, I do got to get on Democrats, mainly because Representative Rashida Tlaib, again, because of what's going on, and yes, we're going to go ahead and say it now, Zuckerberg be damned, what's going on in the Israel-Hamas war, that she is basically calling upon fellow Democrats to vote uncommitted in the Michigan primary against Joe Biden. Because again, for all those that don't know, Rashida Tlaib is a Palestinian woman, the first Palestinian woman to ever serve in Congress. And because of what's going on over there, and because of the U.S.'s position with Israel as far as supplying them and financing them, because Israel's been our welfare queen for as long as I can remember. Being that she's Palestinian, of course she takes offense to it. Rightly so. But at the same time, because, if you've listened to other podcasts out there or other news, They've been calling Joe Biden genocidal Joe, or ceasefire. They've been asking for a ceasefire in Gaza for the longest time. And again, Representative Tlaib again is still saying it needs that because she's not happy with the inactions that we're taking. And I've said it before on this show. If you really want to know what's going on, the history between Israel and Hamas and Palestinians, it just paints a different story. And I'll say this again. Don't take my word for it. Actually look at the history. It's out there for anybody to see. And again, you can come up to your own conclusions on what you think is going on. But if you ask me, Israel's kind of paying a narrative because they're not the victims in this, in my opinion. But we will see because Biden at this point may also get the Democratic nomination. But at the same time, I don't want an old ass president. Don't get me wrong. Biden has accomplished a lot, which we'll definitely get into a little bit later in this podcast. Biden's accomplished a lot, but at the same time, I am just like, you still have a problem, which we'll get into that momentarily. But the problem he has right now with the Israel-Hamas war is that America does not need another war. We have always been the theater of war since the inception of our nation, and I think there was only maybe 17 years that America wasn't involved in a war. And yet they wonder why enlistment numbers are down. The next generation has figured it out. They don't want to fight for a country that once used up and dealing with a broken VA system will do nothing for them. And I can't blame them. But speaking of things that don't make any sense, guys, switching to education, just because, well, education, you would think that, of course, you would never think that if your school's so violent, so bad, that the only option you have is enlisting the National Guard. Well, this one school thought it was a good idea and actually went with it.
You see them deploy during disasters and respond to emergencies. Now 4 school committee members want their next assignment to be at Brockton High School.
We're not asking them to deploy a whole army to our school. We're asking for support.
They sent this letter to the governor asking for military support to help stop the violence. Video after video shows the fights breaking out in classrooms and in hallways.
Kids are losing precious learning time when kids are causing chaos.
And with as many as 30 teachers calling out sick out of fear for their own safety, they say they don't know where else to turn.
We're looking for support with the National Guard to come in and act as substitute teachers, hall monitors.
You go home and tell your mother or father G.I. Joe was in the classroom today? I mean, come on.
Brockton City Councilor Winthrop Farwell Jr. says this is not a job for the National Guard.
I think you need more adjustment counselors. I think you need board-certified behavioral analysts. It doesn't take the National Guard. This is on us.
Brockton's mayor agrees. In a statement, he said, quote, "We need to give our administrators the tools to keep order in the school. National Guard soldiers are not the answer." He also said he's working closely with the Brockton Police Department to address the issues and implement strategies.
I go to work every day worried about what's going on at Brockton High.
Ana Reyes says all she wants is for her 15-year-old grandson to feel safe going to school again.
He doesn't want to come to school. What are we going to do?
And that's heartbreaking. It is. But I agree with what the man said. You don't need to bring in the National Guard. You don't. Because this kind of goes into this, and I'm trying to say this as nicely as humanly possible, that the problem with schools has always been that public education has been on the decline. When you take away funding, you don't pay teachers, you take away benefits, you basically have schools cut programs, vocational programs like metalwork and shop and chorus and things of that nature. Once you cut all of these things from schools, then you introduce ridiculous standards that will basically penalize schools if students don't do well. You then overload these teachers with overcrowded classrooms, a crappy lesson plan that does not teach the kids except for repetition, and decides to avoid critical thinking processes. And you wonder, and then not on top of that, the environments, the neighborhoods these kids come from, which may be low income, which may be lacking of diversity, which may be lacking of educational and financial opportunities. And again, when you take away all those things, crime rises. And that same element comes into the school. It is a melting pot of disaster. But you're going to sit there and say, well, we need to bring the National Guard in. You know what you're saying at that point? You're basically saying that that school has now become a prison. That's what you're basically saying. You're basically saying, let's bring in our jailers, because we are now doing the pipeline from school to prison, instead of, like you said, not actually identifying the problems. Because again, look at the well-off schools in public education. Like I said, I use Tennessee as an example. Williamson County, unfortunately, is the richest county we have in Tennessee. Their public education system is divine. Why? Easily funded. Their roads are better. Why? Easily funded. They're, of course, because of their wealthy residents, everything is better. They actually have educational opportunities, financial opportunities out there. But if you go to areas of Davidson County, different story. If you go to areas of Wilson County, different story. Puckett, different story. Again, it always comes back to how they're being funded, how they're being ran. And if you have a melting pot of these things, it should not be surprising that folks still struggle. Should not be. But again, it's just like arming teachers. You don't pay teachers enough, but you want to arm them in the event there's an active shooter. No. At the same time, introducing a live firearm in a situation around children, especially in a teaching environment, is always dangerous. As a firearms owner, I'm being honest, it's dangerous. I don't care if you had all the training in the world, all the situation awareness in the world. An armed teacher never made sense in a school. Neither does bringing in the National Guard. That's all I'm saying. But moving right along, guys, I wanted to cover this part anyway because Fani Willis, the Georgia district attorney that's going after Trump, decided that because they said that she had an improper relationship with one of her prosecutors, she decided to take the stand. Needless to say, after she took the stand, they didn't want her back anymore.
In the Georgia election interference case against former President Trump,
All right.
this Fulton County hearing could determine the future of that case. For a second straight day, Judge Scott McAfee heard evidence on allegations that DA Fani Willis financially benefited from a personal relationship with Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade, who she hired on the case. Now, Trump and several co-defendants are trying to have her removed.
It is a lie. It is a lie.
After more than 2 hours of surprise, fiery testimony yesterday, today, the state declined to call Willis for cross-examination.
I have one daughter, Fani Willis.
On the stand, Willis's father, John Floyd, pressed on what he knew about her relationship with Wade. At issue, when that relationship began, before or after she hired him. Wade and Willis said it was after.
Did you ever meet Mr. Wade in the year 2019?
Absolutely not.
How about in the year 2020?
Absolutely not.
Also a focus, the issue of cash, which became central yesterday when Willis said that's how she would reimburse Wade for their vacations.
It's a black thing, okay? You know, I was trained, and most black folks, they hide cash. And I've told my daughter, you keep 6 months worth of cash always.
Now, the question for Judge McAfee, will Willis be allowed to remain on the election interference case?
What's at stake here? Well, what's at stake is that I'm pretty sure that if the DA is disqualified, I think the case is pretty much dead in the water, because the chances that any new DA is going to be appointed to the case before the election is almost nil.
And Blaine, with testimony wrapped now, when would we be likely to see a decision on whether Willis will be taken off the case?
Well, Lester, the evidence has all been presented now, but the judge now has to hear summaries from both sides. That's set to happen either late next week, if not the week after. So it could be sometime in March before we know the judge's decision.
So literally, guys, again, that was a little bit of a snippet because Fani Willis, if you ever get to watch it, it's on YouTube. The 2-hour cross-examination, this woman, when I tell you, she got to the witness stand and said, I'm going to need 3 sets of said documents. People went running. When people go running when you need something, that means that you got something on somebody. At the same time, you did not come here to play. And she did not, because after her first day of cross-examination, as they said, They did not call her back to the stand. You ever seen a lawyer? You ever seen a DA give an ass whooping from the witness stand? Miss Willis did that, and their father. And when her father says, like, yeah, you understand that as Black people, we were told that, hey, for a certain extent, you do keep money, you do keep cash, and it was so crazy. Now that I say that, it's so crazy that there are stories, and I have to go find them, especially with stories like BP and Exxon, and the fact that Black people during the time of Green Books were traveling and realized there are certain gas stations you couldn't go to. But there was one thing that always stuck out in my head: always keep a $20. Always keep 20 on you. And did not realize that the reason why you kept 20 on you was because, number one, always have cash on hand no matter what. But at the same time, it was the only way that you can actually get gas at the pump from acceptable places. Never carry more than $20 because you may not get your change back. And I know that's messed up to say that, but that's the way it was back then. So why are we talking about that now? We're talking about that now because as Black people, we do have been told to always keep some cash on you. And I know it's not just Black people, other groups do it as well. But for us that have had the home training, that's always been the case. So why are they going after Willis? Because she's going after Trump. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. She is simply going after Trump. Like the analyst said at the end, if she is found to be taken off the case, then yes, it would take a while for another prosecutor to be assigned, and that's after the election. But here's the thing: even then, he can still. The crazy part is everybody thinks that, oh, well, once Trump's in the election, he can't be touched. Wrong. Yeah, he can. He's not the president. He is a private citizen, which means he is fair game. So yes, even if the prosecutor, even if Willis, which I don't think she's going to be taken off because, again, the prosecution against her had no legs to stand on. Even more so, she pretty much showed them how to actually be an attorney, which makes me think that no, I don't think she's going to get taken off the case. Because, okay, so she decided to pay this man out of her own money, which she does say, and has the paper trail to do it. Does the evidence that she collected against Trump make it any different? Because that's what I've been saying since the beginning of this trial. That all it's very much saying is the information and evidence that she's gathered against Trump, is that tainted? If it's not, then whoever has it, it's a slam dunk. But I just love the fact that it's all Black women that are basically bringing Trump down. And that would be a hellified story to tell kids as I get older that yes, Dorito was taken down by Black women. And I could not be more prouder. But again, we'll follow that case as it comes along, whether or not Willis is brought off or on. If she is taken off, I think that would be a travesty because, again, in my opinion, she did nothing wrong. But I digress. Speaking of things that are doing wrong, I talked about educators having a hard time trying to teach kids. What about librarians? Because in Virginia right now, there is a bill that would remove protections for librarians in the event that minors come across books that contain what the state considers obscene material at their facilities. Now, you guys, we've talked about this, where so-called parents, moms for liberty, one of the two, have been going after books because they swear up and down they contain CRT, they contain a critical race theory, that they're detrimental to kids, that they're either word porn or deviant, or will turn kids gay if they read them. But that's what they've been trying to do. But you know the books that they don't remove? Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul. They'll never remove that book. But you know what book they will remove? The Hate You Give. Also a great book. They'll remove To Kill a Mockingbird. To Kill a Mockingbird. Fahrenheit 451, which the whole point of Fahrenheit 451 was to burn books because they don't want people to learn. To Kill a Mockingbird was about racism, Of Mice and Men, The Grapes of Wrath, The Catcher in the Rye, The Flowers in the Attic. I can keep going. All Boys Aren't Blue. The simple fact of the matter is what these things have in common. They're written by people of color. They're written by people that were of the LGBTQ plus community. And for some odd reason, folks feel threatened that kids are reading this. And I'll be the first to say it here. Kids, on How the Frack We Got Here, read the banned books. Read them all. Because why in the blue hell should a librarian also have to play babysitter? A librarian is there to help kids learn about the library. The library is a great place for books, for comics, for multimedia, for reference, for not just for school, but it's such a great place. At the same time, it amazes me so that you get individuals out there that are just trying to, if you don't like to go to the library, don't go. If you don't think that your child needs to read this, don't let them read it. But what we also say is, don't speak for everybody else. What you want to do with your kids and your house is your thing. But holding librarians responsible, even up to a fine, just because a kid is reading something that, again, is not harmful, but actually helpful. Because reading is fundamental. Reading increases, a kid who reads has a better chance of understanding English and writing. A kid who reads has a better chance of graduation and college acceptance. A kid who reads moves farther than a kid who doesn't. And I always feel like every child wants to read if given the opportunity. It's only idiots that stop them are the real people that should be serving the crime. But again, this is the world we live in. They're trying to privatize public education to the point to where it's handled by religious schools. And again, Tennessee's a prime example of it because they're too busy trying to do school vouchers. But anyway, move right along with other things of wrongs that have been righted. A man that was wrongly convicted of murder actually receives a $10 million settlement. This is what I mean by folks who have been done wrong actually get the right type of amount, because you don't get those years back, especially those are working prime years. But anyway, here's the man's story.
Andre Ansari, who was wrongfully accused of fatally shooting a 15-year-old girl in Detroit back in 2013. His attorney, Wolf Mueller, who also joins us now, helped Alexandre win his exoneration and a historic $10 million verdict. We thank you both so much for being here. Alexandre, you served more than 6 years of a life sentence for a murder you did not commit. You always maintained your innocence. How does it feel to finally get justice in your case?
I'm just thankful that the jury finally seen all the evidence and was able to, bring me justice.
We're talking about $10 million for roughly 6 years. I guess if you do the math, it's about $1.6 million a year. Of course, I don't know how you put a valuation on those years that were lost, but do you feel in the end that this compensation is fair?
I believe so. I put it in the jury's hands. So, I felt like they evaluated the right way.
You were 27 years old at the time. Tell us about what you feel that you've lost during that 6 years that you've been incarcerated.
I lost a lot. My granny was the main person in my life. And, unfortunately, she can't be here now, but I'm thankful for the tools that she gave me to be able to fight,
What kinds of hardships did you experience while behind bars?
Once I got the verdict back, my heart dropped. And I'm like, man, I got to spend the rest of my life in here for something I didn't do. And, I tried to kill myself.
Mm. And what was that? Because life behind bars was so difficult, or because you felt it was so unjust that you had been convicted for a crime you didn't commit?
I felt unjust. I felt like, nobody didn't put all the evidence together to see that I wasn't the person in the first place. So things started getting overwhelming for me.
And Wolf, the jury ruled that a former Detroit police detective hid evidence from prosecutors in Alexandre's case. That detective reportedly feared for his life because the real perpetrator was part of a drug cartel. The City of Detroit Law Department maintains, even to this day, that the detective provided all of the evidence he uncovered. How do you respond to their promise to appeal?
I think their appeal will go nowhere, frankly.
The jury heard all the evidence that this detective had a cozy relationship with the cartel leaders in Southwest Detroit and had protected the cartel leader because he feared for his own safety. If he put the cartel leader away for murder, he would be sentenced, just like Alex, to life without parole. And he feared retaliation from the cartel, so he hid the evidence and purposely directed the investigation away from the cartel leader, even though he testified there was no doubt the cartel leader was behind the shooting and the murder.
And with what role did the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office Conviction Integrity Unit play in Alexandre's exoneration?
They were instrumental in first uncovering all of this evidence. If it wasn't for them, and I give kudos not only to the CIU and their director, Valerie Newman, but Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy. It's the same prosecutor's office that convicted him 5 years earlier. They discovered the evidence. They realized they had been deceived and it had been a miscarriage of justice, and they did the right thing and voluntarily dismissed criminal charges.
Alexandre, you now have your life back. What plans do you have, and what are you looking forward to most?
Mostly just to, live a life that I missed, and just invest in, try to get back to the universe, basically.
Alexandre Ansari and Wolf Mueller, we thank you both so much for joining us.
That's crazy, isn't it? And I keep saying this all the time. He's one of every story that we've come across, all of them wrongly accused. That man right there, wrongfully accused of shooting a 15-year-old girl, and he didn't do it. Even more so that he was wrongfully convicted and incarcerated before the Innocence Project got a hold of this and was like, looked at the evidence, goes, wait, this doesn't convict him. So, but don't get me wrong, I am glad that he's out. I am glad that, yes, he served 6 years that he's not going to get back. 6 years of your life. And I keep trying to explain this to people. Imagine your life is short. It really is. But imagine, if you will, 6 to 7, 10 or more years of your life gone for a crime you didn't do. And yes, am I glad that man wrongfully convicted is out and free? Yes. But now it's time to talk about payment. We need to talk about compensation, because the man is up in age. He can't work. He has no job history. He's been incarcerated, so he's probably institutionalized just a little bit. What can he do? Where can he start? Because as quickly as they put him in, they'll release him just as fast, and then he's on his own. So thank goodness the man got $10 million in damages. I hope he lives. I hope he lives it up to try to enjoy the time that he has. I hope that he does. But how many times have we seen this story, guys, where for the simple fact of the matter, it's always going to be the story of a person that's wrongfully convicted, and yet the prosecutor, law enforcement, everybody involved that got this man pretty much convicted and jailed. What happens to them? Because I can only imagine, if they got that wrong, how many other cases out there are wrong? How many innocent people are currently sitting in jail right now? And don't get me wrong, when you got things like the Innocent Project and Free Me and things of that nature going on, trying to find those cases best they can, who knows how many of them are in there? But I do know this: if you are wrongfully accused and you are found absolved, you are found cleared of all charges, yeah, run that money, because that's wages that he could have earned that he may not have the chance to. At the same time, for $10 million, he may not want to do anything for the rest of his life. And I'm going to be honest, it takes a lot to spend $10 million. And like I said, I hope the man finds peace, because it's a travesty that happens to him and many others. Oh, hey, Lee Perry, what did you say? I think the backlash is more on the books containing graphic homosexual content. Again, okay. So again, going back to librarians, okay, but here's the question I have, because they're talking about school libraries. So school libraries are held to a certain standard. Public libraries are public. Very few public libraries will allow children to borrow certain books. They will. I mean, that's just being honest. They will allow them to borrow certain books. But again, in a school library, come on now, in the school library, they're going to be a little bit more firm about this. At the same time, I'm going to be very honest. They don't have a leg to stand on because what they consider graphical homosexual content would be like a book like it would be like a book like the Diary of Anne Frank or Flowers in the Attic. They would consider that more graphic material, but really it's not. But I'm just saying that librarians should not be held accountable for what kids should learn. And again, do I think kids need to read graphic homosexual content? Absolutely not. But find a book that but okay. I always say it like this. I always say like this to those that, so they say, well, Will, you don't know what you're talking about. I usually sit there and say this, okay? Give me one book that has graphic homosexual content that kids read that should be banned, because I know of one, and that book sits in every school in America. The Bible. The Bible has slavery, homosexual content, glutinous activities, daughters laying with their fathers, some laying with animals, and that's in the first part of the Bible. And a Bible sits in almost every school library in America. So if you're gonna ban something that has graphic homosexual content and lewd acts and things of that nature, start with the Bible. That's what I would do. But again, I always say, show me a book that kids can get a hold of that contains that graphic homosexual content, and then you have that leg to stand on. I just don't see it. But again, my opinion. Moving right along, guys. I keep saying about the GOP and the fact of the matter that, yes, they are pretty much out to ensure that children can work. We have been saying this since last year. The workforce is changing. So instead of the GOP actually trying to help people transition, because we are moving toward automation is taking a lot of jobs, what they have done is said, those child labor laws, we need to loosen those up because kids want to work. And not kids working at your mom and pop's place or McDonald's, things of that nature, like the picture they love to plant, that teenagers can go to school and then go work at fast food for minimum wage and be fine. This is not the 1960s anymore, because right now, a Tennessee firm, Fayette Janitorial, employed 15 children to work at a slaughterhouse. They work at a slaughterhouse, basically also known as Purdue Farm in Virginia, to clean equipment. Keep in mind what I just said. Employed children. These children were under the age of 14, and they are working at a slaughterhouse. And it's okay. And that's the thing about it. There are certain states, mostly conservative, that are loosening labor laws. In Sarah Huckabee Sanders in Arizona, she's doing the same thing. She's pretty much saying, oh, well, they love to work. We allow them to work. Even in Tennessee, where technically a kid over 16 can only work so many hours because they go to school. My home state, those freaking idiots are trying to loosen that up to where a kid can work more hours. I cannot stress enough how dangerous that is. There's a reason why child labor laws are put into effect. There was a reason why we didn't depend on their workforce to be mostly kids. But this is what's going on. And again, we already covered a story where illegal immigrants as children were working at slaughterhouses, and the same actual group up north got caught twice. Wasn't shut down though. No, they just got fined. The kids got cycled out, but they got caught again. This is what the GOP wants moving forward. They literally want child labor back. And I don't know how in the world that's not a more dangerous thing to say right now. But again, we'll follow that story as it comes along. But I'm going to talk about Biden before we wrap this up. Biden's going to have a problem. Biden has a black problem. Not because of what Charlamagne the God says, because personally I think Charlamagne the God is a fucking idiot. But again, like most idiots, they usually get one right every now and then.
Do you get blowback from the White House? Because you, even now in this conversation, you're very tough on Biden, and they clearly think that you are an important voice. I mean, there's an ad running on your show now from the Biden-Harris campaign. So when you say something critical, do you hear from them?
Yeah, and I think that's the stupidest shit ever, because I think that I'm sorry, but
we can bleep that out.
Yeah, because I feel like you should be able to criticize whoever your elected official is, right? And even if I do criticize them, I'm criticizing them because of what I see coming up in November. I see what we're facing. So what I'm saying to them is, where is the sense of urgency? You can't keep saying that there's a threat to democracy, and democracy as we know it is going to be gone. But
so yeah, this is why I sit there and say, again, not really a big fan of Charlamagne the God. Again, I think he's an idiot, but like most idiots, they get one right every now and then, because he did make a criticism about how he pushed for Biden last year, how he pushed for Biden in the last election. This election, he's not pushing for Biden. And that, of course, this got wind to the White House, to where they sat there and, decided to say some choice words about Charlamagne the God. But he is right to criticize Biden. And I will say this very nicely, because Biden has done a lot. Biden has got some wins under his belt. But I will also sit there and say he could go farther, especially with student loans, which we're going to get into near the end of the podcast. But he could have went farther. And I kept saying this. He did actually do to a certain extent. He actually did to a certain standpoint. Because guys, I remember at the beginning of last year, it was more of an open, progressive agenda. He wanted to push forward with raising the minimum wage. He wanted to push forward with the stimulus checks, because he wanted to get American people paid. He wanted to move forward with clearing out the student loan debt. Although he didn't say clearing it out, he wants to do something about it. So we do have to give him credit. He never said he would wipe out student loan debt, but he wanted to do something about it. At the same time, he wanted to fix voting rights by pushing for the Voting Rights Act, pushing for the George Floyd Police Reform Act, which both those things did die because GOP did not want them. So why are we talking about Biden now? Because I've been talking about him every podcast. I said Biden has a black voter problem. He's going to have a hard time trying to convince minorities once again to back him, when minorities will always do the same thing. What has Biden done for black people? And you can't blame them for the mindset, because think about this: Asian Americans got attacked during COVID-19, early days of COVID-19, to the point to where an anti-hate bill was merely signed and completed within days for a hate bill toward Asian Americans, because Trump at the time decided to turn around there and say, point the fact that those of the Far East descent were the reason for the COVID-19, which again caused a lot of issues and assaults and almost near deaths. Understandable. But again, happened under Biden's watch. Biden also sat there and again wanted to get the voting rights done. Voting Rights Act made sense. Make election day a federal holiday, so you don't have to worry about going to work and then trying to run to your polls. A national automatic vote registration, so you don't actually have to do the whole thing when you go to the polls. And at the same time, vote. You have multiple ways of voting. Increasing the mail-in vote and increasing drop outs, things of that nature. It was actually a good idea. And at the same time, GOPs, along with Manchin and Sinema, killed it. The George Floyd Police Reform Bill, a reform bill that would have banned chokeholds, ended qualified immunity, and actually would have forced law enforcement to redo the way to do training. Because I say it all the time, you can be a law enforcement officer faster than you can be an anesthesiologist, a nail technician, or a plumber. Especially here in Nashville, because I have yet to be told I'm wrong. 6 months, and you're 6 months in the academy, and you're out there protecting and serving. Or in this case, shooting first and ask questions later. But again, that bill got killed. The point I'm making is every one of these bills that Biden tried to push forward as an open progressive agenda all got killed. And yet he decided to turn around and go more along the lines of a moderate Democrat, which I call Republican light. He didn't push forward the policies of everything, but he had one last card on the table: student loans. and said, I am going to take off $10,000 to $20,000 for everybody that has student loans. A drop in the bucket, sure. Should he have went farther? Yes, which we'll get into momentarily. But again, I have just described a whole bunch of things, and outside of student loans, everything but black people is like, he hasn't done anything for us. And yet here he comes to our church, to our backyards, asking for our vote. And I'll be honest, I'll still say vote. Learn the candidates, whether or not, because I've seen some people say, I want to vote for Trump. I'm like, you're going to have to explain yourself to somebody, because somebody's going to look at you and go, why do you want to vote for somebody that does not care about you? Well, they always say Trump's racist. Have you not seen the time when the Central Park 5 came out and he took out a full 5-page editorial? But again, tell me Trump's not racist. But going back to Biden is going to have, much like Nikki Haley, a hard time getting black voters because he has not done enough to sit there and say, I'm including you. What I mean by that, guys, and I've said before, Biden can do three things right now. Biden can do three things, and black people will jump onto it in a heartbeat. Well, actually four, because one is going to be far-fetched because I don't see him doing it, but three are definites. Number one, legalize marijuana, declassify marijuana as a drug, and tax it. That's it. If he had sat there and said, on my agenda, I am going to make marijuana legal. Yes, marijuana is legal in about 13 out of the 50 states. But imagine statewide, marijuana is legal. The business booms that happen. You thought Colorado was a fluke? Imagine other places where marijuana is legal. Because everybody thought for the longest time moonshine was illegal. Moonshine wasn't illegal. It's the fact that nobody paid taxes on it when you sell it because the government wants their share too. But imagine if marijuana was legal, not only for the fact of the economical side, but the criminal side as well. You'll have to decriminalize marijuana, which means that there's going to be a lot of people come out of those jail cells with expunged records for drug charges dealing with marijuana. Because in my mind, marijuana is a plant. It's not a drug. It's not like cocaine or methamphetamines or things of that nature. But imagine if Biden said that. You'll have the black vote. I mean, not to say this is more key toward black people, but black people, because there are some of us that do partake. I don't, but I don't judge people. But again, you would get their attention. Or better yet, you turn around, number two, increase the minimum wage. If you increase the minimum wage, you ever heard the phrase, a rising tide raises all ships? Right now, the minimum wage in America is still $7.29. I know in some cities and states, it can be anywhere from $10 to $15 an hour. But imagine, if you will, if minimum wage was raised right along with the price of inflation. Because if we really think about it, minimum wage right now should be anywhere between $28 to $30 an hour. And here's the beauty part. Minimum wage forces all these other jobs to pay at that rate. Because for a lot of people that don't understand, minimum wage's initial idea was to basically pay you the lowest amount possible to where you can sustain yourself with housing, food, clothes, transportation, and utilities. That was the whole idea of minimum wage, to give you just enough, but you can survive on it. Nowadays, $7.29 is slavery. At the same time, Biden can turn around, again, number two, raise the minimum wage. Number three, he could, outside of, and I know I'm saying a lot, outside of everything else, he can restore the parts of affirmative action. Restore the parts of affirmative action that will guarantee diversity hiring. Because trust and believe, in every HR section, they got a count of how many minority people they hire. And trust me, that number has not changed. As long as that number is hit, they feel like they're safe. But number four, finally have the reparations talk. I can sit there and talk about student loans, and I can sit there and say all the time, wipe out student loans. Because again, we wiped out that stupid, dumbass paycheck protection plan. Because remember, that plan was $787 billion. $757 billion of that plan that gave money to those that had the ability to pay their people or get loans of their own. Keep in mind what I said. Out of $787 billion, $757 billion was forgiven, which means those companies, those rich people, did not pay a goddamn thing. Oh, but we did, because for them loans to be forgiven, somebody's got to pay for them. That's right. You and me paid for those loans. So here's my thing. If you don't ask me that you can forgive a business or a rich person that takes out a PPP loan and is immediately forgiven for that loan, and you didn't ask for my opinion of it, personally, I think you should shut the fuck up when we sit there and say, yes, you can wipe out student loan debt. You can wipe out that $1.7 trillion student loan debt, because student loan debt is a crutch. But again, we'll get into that momentarily. But why are we talking about Biden? Because again, another part of this, before we get on to that next part, is a reason why. Because conservative groups are trying to attack them. And how are they attacking them? Currently, right now, in South Carolina, some people who live in South Carolina are probably seeing this flyer right here. For all those that can't see, I'll read it real quick. Leadership is about setting policies. Instead of banning methanol cigarettes, President Biden should stop the flow of illegal drugs into our country, make groceries more affordable, make college more affordable. Tell President Biden to do what he promised. Signed, Building America's Future. This was a targeted flyer to Democratic voters in South Carolina. Notice one thing about this that just stands out to you. Aside from the two wonderful black people, aside from the fact of mentioning Biden's ban on methanol cigarettes, that just seems to be targeted at black people. And yet, I keep saying this because if you smoke or not methanol cigarettes, yes, Biden is trying to come out. Funny is literally trying to ban those. Again, cigarettes do cause cancer, carcinoma, things of that nature. I get it, but look at the visuals. That's what I'm saying. Look at the visuals. They're basically trying to curb black voters, because again, this goes back to the whole idea of informing. So the whole reason why this podcast exists, ladies and gentlemen, is for informing. That if you don't inform or you misinform, there's going to be people looking at this and going, well, yeah, Biden needs to do something just because, why does he need to ban cigarettes? Maybe I like methanol cigarettes. And there it is. You've got one. So it's all really about misinformation on this, especially to the fact of the matter is, if we really want to be honest, a simple Google search, as I've done here multiple times in this podcast, has shown methanol cigarettes have been advertised and directed at black people. So is malt liquor. Don't believe me? A simple Google search of methanol cigarette advertisements, and you're only going to see one demographic in a lot of them. I'm just saying. But hey, Osmond, what'd you say? Facts, excuse me. But money came out the ass for immigrants, but still no form of reparations for Black Americans. See, I gotta ask a question about this, because I've heard, and again, if people can point this out to me or show me where this evidence is, I would be more than happy to read it. But I've been hearing this whole thing as immigrants are going to cities, sanctuary cities of that nature. There was even one where it said that they were given $1,000 cards out of New York, and I'm like, I couldn't find anything on it. I tried. You would think for something, and again, I'm pointing this out, guys. You would think for something as monumental as that would be national news everywhere. And I couldn't find it. You even had to ask somebody, like, where did that come from? Who reported this? Because again, I do believe in facts. I do believe in facts that, yes, we do have immigrants coming here. Yes, they are in certain areas of cities. But here's the thing. America is not, we're not full. We're not. Do I think also another thing, our immigration system is broken. Instead of us sending judges, lawyers, court clerks down there to actually sort out the issue, we're sending National Guard. We're sending tanks. Florida's sending apparently their law enforcement. But the problem is the immigration system itself is still a wreck. And I don't expect the GOP to do anything about it. Democrats have already tried twice. They tried the DREAM Act and they tried DACA to get immigrants to get a path to citizenship put in. And Republicans have shot down every idea. Even Trump, who has sat there and told his cult, hey, about the border deal, don't accept it, because if you do, Biden's going to look like a hero. Think about that for a second. That tells you a lot about a guy who would rather let the border burn down than actually give Biden a win. And on top of that, here's also what I'm saying. As far as immigrants coming here, what's the problem? Because are we not a nation of immigrants? I don't see a problem with immigrants coming here because we are a nation of immigrants. The only people that I believe truly can say that they have the right to stay here are Native Americans. That's it. Everybody else, hey, you're either here by hereditary standards or you came on a boat, one of the two. But when I look at stuff like that, as far as reparations for Black Americans, again, Biden could do it. Biden could literally open that door. We have seen other states' committees do this. But whenever Black reparations come up, for Black Americans come up, oh, how you gonna do it? How much should it be? How it's gonna be distributed? How you gonna know who's Black and who's a descendant of slavery? I'm pretty sure there's a certain way you can. But here's the thing about this, Osmond, and you and I both know this. If they do move forward with reparations for Black Americans, they have to admit that slavery was a mistake and we're finally paying for it. And I'm sorry, with this current Congress, I don't see that freaking happening. I really don't. But moving right along, guys, I wanted to cover this as well because if you are a Capital One owner or you're a Discover or you have a Discover card or you have both, you may want to watch this.
Discover Chief Business Correspondent Rebecca Jarvis starts us off with how the $35 billion merger could affect your finances. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning to you, George. And there is a good chance if you're watching right now, you have a Capital One or a Discover credit card in your wallet. These are two of the largest credit card companies in the country. And now they're joining forces in one of the biggest deals of the year, giving Capital One, which serves more than 100 million customers, access to Discover's 305 million cardholders.
This morning, a massive shakeup in the credit card industry. Capital One is buying Discover in a deal valued at $35 billion.
Capital One is acquiring Discover, which is more than just a credit card issuer. They also have a card network over which the transactions are run. And they also have accumulated a pretty significant deposit base, bringing in deposits from consumers and making loans other than just credit cards.
Joining forces will give Capital One access to Discover's payment network, collecting fees to better compete against industry heavyweights Visa and MasterCard, which could benefit consumers in the long run. It comes as credit card debt in the U.S. hits a record high, more than $1.1 trillion. The average balance now tops $6,000. And with interest rates rising, delinquencies are also up among all age groups. 49% of credit card holders now carry debt from month to month.
The increase in credit card debt at a time when credit card rates are north of 20% at record highs themselves, that really illustrates the financial strain that millions of households are feeling just trying to make ends meet. As savings balances were run down, we've seen credit card balances run up. More people are carrying balances for longer periods of time.
It is tough out there. I hear from viewers about this every day. Now, if you are a customer of either company, don't expect any immediate changes here. You still have to pay your bills, same as before. And the deal still needs to be approved by regulators, which could take a year. After that, there might be some good news for consumers. Analysts believe the combined company will offer better rewards programs. Discover cards, mostly cash back today. Capital One offers a variety. There isn't a lot of overlap in their customers. So if you do have one of these cards in your wallet today, a year from now, don't be surprised if you get a letter in the mail describing new terms, Robin. And by the way, they have to tell you 45 days ahead before they make a change. So you do have time to react to that.
But you said pay your bill. Okay, still
yes,
pay your bill.
pay on time.
Oh, yes, we would all love to pay our bills, even though credit card debt has actually increased in the last year. But what that basically means, guys, is just that companies, it's another company thing. Company taking another company and pretty much taking a bigger pie of the credit debt that's here in America. What does that mean? That means that they probably will be cutting some customers. Some customers will probably leave. At the same time, it just goes to show you that if you are not aware of how credit works in this country, please go on YouTube and start looking up how credit works. Because I still sit there and say, unless you actually went to a pretty good school that actually has a very financial literacy class, a lot of us, myself included, didn't really get to learn about credit until we became older adults. And by then we made a lot of mistakes. So again, not a bad idea for companies to merge. I'm just waiting to see what falls out from the tree, because to me, I'm like, Discover and Capital One merging, or I'm sorry, let me take that back. Capital One purchasing Discover just makes me wonder, you are taking over a very heavily fortified corner of the market. So how it doesn't violate antitrust, things of that nature, I'll never know. But still good to know for credit, because unfortunately, like cash, you do need credit in life. But I want to get back to this real quick, guys. Again, Biden did get a win. I will give him this. But with this win, I'm going to say it like this, guys. With this win, I will still ask, because Biden has just announced, as of today, that he is canceling debt for another group of student loan borrowers.
53,000 student loan borrowers are debt-free after the Biden administration canceled more than $1 billion worth of loans today. Now, this is part one of its SAVE plan, which was launched just last summer. The White House says these loan cancellations are coming about 6 months earlier than were originally planned. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung is here to break it down for us. Who is affected, Brian, in this phase one?
Yeah, well, this forgiveness is not going to count borrowers that have $200,000 of debt that just graduated. This is going to be for people that have been paying for 10 years at a minimum and have loans under $12,000. So it's very targeted. Again, this is part of a phased approach that the Biden administration is using to try to forgive student debt after they, as you recall, tried to forgive debt for 43 million borrowers in the form of basically scratching anything under $20,000 in terms of total loans borrowed. But that was struck down by the Supreme Court. So the Biden administration, the Department of Education, trying to do this targeted approach for certain types of borrowers.
So how do you sign up, Coach? How do you enroll?
Yeah, well, and by the way, the administration is saying that out of 30 million borrowers that could be eligible for this, only 7 million have really applied so far. And that's because not a lot of people might be aware of the plan to begin with. So there are two steps to this. First of all, you would only be eligible for this forgiveness if you're already enrolled in what they call that Saving on a Valuable Education, or SAVE plan. That was only unveiled last year. Once you're eligible for that, then you would do another check based off of the criteria we just talked about to see if you're eligible for forgiveness. So a lot of people aren't even enrolled or checked online yet. You can do so at studentaid.gov.
So what happens actually, Brian, when a student loan is canceled? Who pays that remaining balance?
Yeah, well, nothing is free, right? But when it comes to student loans, all the debt, for the most part, is being held by the U.S. government. So they basically just kind of scratch a line in a spreadsheet and it disappears. But of course, it has to be made up elsewhere. Now, the administration is hoping that that won't all go to the U.S. deficit, that it'll be made up for by those borrowers who aren't saddled with debt, maybe going out and spending the economy more. That increases the taxable base. So it's not necessarily dollar for dollar, but the costs will have to come from somewhere. That is very much going to be part of the analysis, I'm sure, after they figure out how many people enroll in this.
Brian Chung, always.
Okay, so again, it is a win to a certain extent. That yes, if you were on the SAVE plan or the income repayment plan for 10 years, you probably heard me talk about this multiple times, that Biden, again, tried to do the $10,000, $20,000 thing. It went all the way to the Supreme Court. Almost would have made it, but I wish I had those names, those two people that filed lawsuits to stop that actual plan. I wish I had their names, because I want to say their names every chance I get. And I'm going to do that on every podcast from here on out, because those two people filing a lawsuit actually is what led that case to go all the way to the Supreme Court. So when the Supreme Court sat there and said the president does not have the power to turn around and wipe out student loans. Okay. But I'll give it to Biden and the Department of Education. I'll give it to Biden and the Department of Education on this one. They are finding loopholes. I keep telling you guys, if you're on the public, if you took a public self loan, those are being wiped out. If you were at a for-profit college that was false, that got wiped out. If you had been on an income repayment plan for 10 plus years, which is crazy if you think about that. Imagine paying 10 plus years of student loans, probably more interest than principal. But imagine you paid for a decade and still you are still paying on that loan. Those got wiped out because there's a backlog. There is a backlog of these individuals that have paid these loans and are still be paying debt. Those are probably getting wiped out. So what's next? Those that have been paying, but now your loans are under 10,000. Okay, I'm sorry, scratch that. Your loans are under 12,000. Happy for you, 7 million people who may be eligible. But here's the thing I'm going to sit there and say that if Biden is able at this point to cancel nearly $2 billion, and the current amount of student loan debt for our country is $1.7 trillion, I think beyond a shadow of a doubt, we can now say, yes, you can wipe out student loan debt if you pushed it. You can take that 1.7. But I hear people now, but if they did that, that means we have to pay for it. Look at your tax returns right now. For all those that have done their tax returns right now, are you mad about the amount you're getting back? You want to know why? Because we're paying for that stupid PPP loan program right now. And again, we weren't asked if we were going to pay back we weren't asked if we were going to pay back the government's forgiveness of business loans to corporations and rich people. So if you're not going to ask me about paying back what rich people and corporations will pay back, treat student loans the same way. Because again, they could shelve that 1.7 trillion. They could shelve it. And yes, I wouldn't mind paying it. But you know what I've always sat there and said? For the simple fact of the matter, guys, student loans, and again, kids who are going to college and you just happen to look up on my podcast, first of all, welcome. Second of all, please avoid student loans if you can. Student loans are the biggest predatory lending next to paycheck and paycheck advance loans. They are. They're predatory lending. You as an 18-year-old do not know what you're signing up for the rest of your life because you were informed that, hey, to get a good career, go to college, get a degree. Knowing that you're spending anywhere from 40 to almost well over 200,000, especially in the medical field, you could be spending more than that to get a degree. That degree is supposed to help you get a career. That career is supposed to lead to a good paying job. That job helps you pay back the investment because that's how they treat it, the investment in your future. Whereas a lot of us who have degrees, multiple degrees, in fact, are still struggling. And we can't get the degree back because we're stuck with it now. But imagine, if you will, student loan debt from a credit profile is a killer because it fits into your debt to income ratio. So you have a hard time getting a car loan. You have a hard time purchasing a home. You'll have a hard time with credit. You'll even have a hard time getting a job because some jobs do check your credit too. And if they see you got a lot of debt, you might be a liability and immediately disqualified. But just imagine, if you will. And Osmond, you really beat me to it on this. Institutions and businesses with a financial foundation of slavery would love to have acknowledged it and they come up with restitution, which is hard to see that happening now. Unfortunately, yes. Until things have changed or we get the right people in Congress to actually get that moving along. If only it could be like the big payback episode in Atlanta. Shh. If only, sir. But again, this is why I keep pointing out. If the student loan debt was wiped out, here's what happens. I believe well over 15 to 20 million Americans immediately see debt relief. Imagine the fact that you no longer have to pay a bill because for anybody that's ever paid student loans, interest and principal, and forgive my language, is a motherfucker. It is. You are paying on interest so long that you forget what the principal is. But that's how it's designed. These banks and private banks that do these student loans have lobbied Congress enough to where A, they're still allowed to do what they want to do, and B, they go unchecked. Like, for example, I've said this before, and I'm yet to be wrong, that the Pell Grants that are given from the United States government could be increased to actually cover a semester or even a yearly semester. It could be increased because, again, they want to make money off of you from borrowing money. And the thing about it is, I love that these days, this next generation that's coming up, these kids have figured out, I don't need to go to college. I can go to a trade school. I can go into a trade school and be making 75 off the bat as an apprentice and move on up. Or I don't need college, or I can start my own business. I love the fact that even though college as an experience was great, I'm happy being a college graduate. I'm proud of that accomplishment. But I also carry student loan debt. I also am stuck with a rock around my neck that could affect every financial and future purchase for the rest of my life until A, that debt is paid, or B, that debt is wiped out. But I give these next generation kids kudos for them sitting there saying, why should I lock myself in for a 40-year loan that's not going to, that for the opportunity of a job? And I wish somebody like that sat me down and had me think like that a long time ago. I'm just saying. But moving right along, guys, we're going to go into our feel good segment on how the Frack We Got Here, because usually we do on how the Frack We Here cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes make use of faith in humanity, but hey, it's Wednesday. Technically, it's Thursday. It's early Thursday morning. It's 12:36 a.m. So thank you guys for sticking with me. As this podcast is still live and of course in playback we recorded. But thank you all for sticking with me. But anyway, we will leave you guys out some good vibrations. And I keep saying, people who do the kindest things will always be remembered, and this bus driver definitely will be.
Tonight here, the little boy getting on the school bus and the bus driver who noticed something and stepped in. America Strong. Tonight in Louisville, the elementary school bus driver who cares about the children on his bus, and he noticed something. Larry Ferris Jr. has been driving for Engelhard Elementary School for years. He's beloved. They call him Mr. Larry. When Mr. Larry picked up first grader Levi Carrier, he knew something was wrong. Levi was in tears, telling Mr. Larry it was pajama day at school and he didn't have any to wear. Mr. Larry dropping off the students and then going to Family Dollar himself, where he bought 2 pairs of PJs for Levi, hoping one of them would work. Tonight, the school sharing the story, saying Levi and his family are grateful. Levi saying Mr. Larry is nice and his heart is filled with joy. Right here tonight.
Good evening, Mr. David.
That bus driver, Mr. Larry.
We can educate and further push our kids in the right direction. Our school staff, our bus drivers, our principals, our teachers, they all go above and beyond doing for our kids every single day.
And tonight we have learned, following Mr. Larry's lead, the community now coming together, a local nonprofit raising money for Levi and his family to go shopping for new clothes. And Mr. Larry, the bus driver, says he will be right there with them.
My small gesture has become a huge impact, and I'm so grateful for it. Have a good one. Thanks for talking to me.
We love it, Mr. Larry.
Again, I keep saying, guys, whenever it comes to schools in the village is needed. And the village is not just educators, librarians, it's bus drivers too. At the same time, one act of kindness. That's all we really need, honestly. Well, that and really get back to our roots. But again, feel good moment. Love it. Can't no complaints about it. But that being said, guys, that's going to do it for this podcast. I do thank you all for liking, for watching, for letting people know this is live. I apologize for the lateness of this podcast, guys. Again, thanks for sticking with me. Best way I can say this. With that being said, guys, I do want to do some shameless plugging. Shout out to my friend at Vaughn, the Big BZA Dot. Definitely check out his YouTube page, his music beats. He does beats for practically anything. Songs, television shows, podcasts, things of that nature. Definitely hit him up there. Again, guys, also for myself, you can find me, Black_Spartan615 on the socials, as I do usually reviews on everything. The links can also be found there to the shows of How the Frack We Got Here. Gibbet podcast can be found there as well. Social pages for those shows are coming. Please bear with me, guys. Still a one-man operation here, but we are definitely going to get up with the times. We say, Osmond, that was my biggest concern since I graduated high school, last year in school, now learning electric trade. Bruh, you're fine. When I tell you, you're fine. You're doing exactly that. And I give you another props for learning electric trade. Yeah, definitely neighborhood heroes. Definitely that. That also being said, guys, I do also want to point out blurredstation.com. Again, this is the spot that really needs to have a shine on for a place that's built for us, by us, and people of color to enjoy. It has television shows, it has comics, it has developing movies, things of that nature. If you are a content creator yourself and want to join this ship, and unlike Tubi, be able to actually earn to have ownership of your content, please go to blurredstation.com. Check out the FAQ section as far as how you can do that. I will also ask you guys if you'll join, definitely select the Blurred's Eye View Affinity membership, guys. And again, from there, We actually have a list of offending members. You can select anybody there. We would all appreciate regardless. And as you can see there, guys, it is $10.99 a month. Again, $10.99 a month ain't bad considering the fact that everything else is going up but the rent. And again, after 36 months, you actually have the ability to own a piece of Blur Station. Have you ever wanted to own a piece of a mega media site like Amazon or Hulu or Max without paying an assload of money, and that without having to go through E-Trade or things of that nature? It's a lot easier at Blur Station. Again, check it out as more things are being added. And again, that's how we support each other. Let's stop supporting places like Tubi because honestly, Tubi and Fox are owned by the same person. And that same person has used black content creators to basically make an assload amount of money, but still keep ownership of their content while they're left out in the cold. This is the same man that did it for Fox and Tubi. That's all I'm saying. But also, guys, as we wrap this up, again, I cannot stress this enough. We are in a presidential nomination season, which means that sometime down the road at the end of this year, we do have to pick a candidate. Learn the candidates, learn what they're about, not just the federal level, but at the local level. And if you yourself feel like you should run for office, there are plenty of sites out there that can show you exactly how to run for office in your city, in your county, or your state. Again, be informed, make a difference. That's what the show's about. The last thing I'll say about how the Frack We Got Here, guys, it's all about staying informed. We're not trying to basically reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information allow you to make up your own mind. But we do provide a lot of perspective that goes along with it. We do better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that affect the future, like electing our first black woman to the Federal Board of Governors, electing our first black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first black woman as a national cybersecurity director. All great things. We don't learn from history. We are doing to repeat them. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go up at your paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians, but still the same old gang in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack We Got Here. Again, guys, thank you all for watching, liking, sharing. Share it out there. Let people know about it. I certainly appreciate it because without you, this is not possible. Take care of yourselves, guys, and each other. We'll get through this. Peace.